What was the latest stunt of the TSA and the naked body scanner manufacturers and those that make money from it, like Chertoff? It was promoting naked body scanners now a year and a half ago when the Christmas Day underwear bomber struck. Well, it was Kurt Haskell and, of course, his wife, both lawyers, who witnessed the sharp-dressed man getting him on the plane without the passport. And a month and a half later, the State Department came out and said, well, it is true that an unnamed U.S. agency asked us to help him get a visa. This is bombshell information. This is much bigger than Fast and Furious. They just released audio recordings of the ATF trying to cover up they were shipping guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. Another false flag attack on this country's rights. And this is the guy, in the face of media scrutiny and the FBI visiting him and the media saying, oh, this Haskell guy, you know, he's off in left field. Well, it all turned out to be true, and then other witnesses stepped forward on the other issues. So with us is Kurt Haskell to look at the aftermath of how this has been used to further chop America up, basically, and turn it into a police state because, well, the trial of the underwear bomber, and Mr. Haskell's a lawyer, so he can speak to this with some expertise, has now just gotten ready to begin. And he joins us. Thank you so much, sir, for being on with us.
Hey, Alex. Good to be back.
Well, my friend, you know, I've always got a lot of I want to make, but you've got the floor. You want to recap the historical thing you witnessed with the underwear firecracker bomber that we all have to run in fear of, or do you want to get into the latest information you've garnered?
You know, it's up to you, Alex. Do you have a preference? Where do you want to start?
Let's start wherever you'd like. Okay.
Well, I guess we'll start with what I saw in Amsterdam, in case someone's watching or listening that doesn't know who I am. You know, back on Christmas Day 2009, my wife Lori and I were traveling back from Africa, passing through Amsterdam on our way to Detroit, sitting at the gate playing cards, and I saw an Indian man around age 50 wearing a tan suit, walking with, looked like an African teenager who had on jeans and a white T-shirt, didn't have a coat, didn't have any bags. Remember, we're in the middle of winter, and Amsterdam's pretty cold. It's about as cold as it is around here in Detroit in winter. And, you know, I thought they were an odd pair. So I watched them as we were playing cards. They went up to the desk together, talked to the security airline worker who was working there. Just the Indian man spoke, and he said this man needs to board the flight, but he doesn't have a passport. And then the worker said, well, you have to have a passport to get on the flight. And the Indian man then said, well, he's from Sudan. We do this all the time. And then she referred them down a hallway, which was still in a secure area, and said, you need to go talk to a manager down the hallway. And, you know, at the time, it didn't mean anything to me. I didn't know who these people were. It meant absolutely nothing. But a few hours later, as we were coming down to land in Detroit on our flight, the African man tried to detonate a bomb on our plane. And he's subsequently known as the underwear bomber. You know, I was pretty stunned after we landed, and I noticed that it was the same guy, and I leaned over Lori and I said, hey, I think maybe I've seen something important here. And right after we got off the plane, the first chance I got, I told the story to the FBI, and I've repeated it hundreds of times since. And obviously the media doesn't want to cover it. The government doesn't want to hear it. And, you know, I've been stonewalled by everybody pretty much, except you and a few other people in the media that want the story out there. But, you know, that's what has gotten me known, and that's why you want to talk to me, I'm sure.
Well, the bombshell, though, is, and it came out with the Detroit Free Press and a few other places, but got no national coverage, that what the Undersecretary of State said, yeah, we were asked, quote, by an unnamed U.S. agency to get him a visa, and then here he is without the passport and stuff being gotten on the plane. I mean, this is incredible. About an hour after it happened, it was Christmas Day, I was going to get eggs at the local corner store for my wife, and an hour after it happened, they were already saying, don't worry, we're not going to put scanners in, and they were behaving as if they just decided to do this. but I had remembered that they'd purchased them and, well, started the order for them a year before. So it was a complete rollout. I mean, it had all the signs of a PR event, and that's always a telltale in something staged. And then more and more began to come out, and then others described him as looking disheveled. I think you described him as kind of out of it. And so many times, it now turns out Anwar al-Awlaki, Fox News, AP, Reuters all report, number 3 in Al-Qaeda, the underwear bomber that you had a visit with a little pop in his pants or whatever it was you and others saw and heard. You've got the Times Square attacker. You've got the Fort Hood shooter. You've got so many others who he handles basically as their connection. The CIA told Congress, we won't let you have his 2 years of emails to Major Hassan at Fort Hood. And then we learn he's secretly hanging out at the Pentagon while he's on the most wanted list, number 3 in Al-Qaeda. And now, just last week, the State Department won't release under national security their records of the supposed number 3 of Al-Qaeda. I mean, at a certain point, Kurt, this is getting a little too obvious. And I know you like, as a lawyer and as an American, to just stick to the facts, man, like the guys from Dragnet. But at a certain point, I mean, this is as staged as a $3 bill when the handler of this guy who supposedly almost killed you and your wife is being handled by a guy hanging out secretly with the Secretary of the Army. What's your view on that?
Well, Alex, I've been on your show, I think, 4 or 5 times now. But the first 2 or 3 times I came on, I wasn't drawing these conclusions yet. I'm sure your listeners remember when I was on, and, I wanted to stick to the facts and have the case build up to where I actually believed what you're saying, that this was an intentional government plot. And at some point, there became enough evidence where I firmly agree with you that this was definitely a stage plot by the U.S. government. And I think in your listeners that are having doubts to that, I think the best evidence of that is to go on the internet and Google Patrick Kennedy underwear bomber testimony and watch the video of the Undersecretary of the State Department, Patrick Kennedy, as he squirms in his testimony at Congress, trying every which way to not admit that this was an intentional plot. I think it's very telling. Just watch how he acts. It's obvious he's trying to hide what we all know, those of us that are paying attention, that this was a staged plot by the U.S. government, and there's a lot of evidence that supports that. Not a staged plot with a bomb, but with a defective bomb. There's a lot of evidence that this bomb could not have even detonated because it lacked a blasting cap. And I've had discussions with I'll call him Umar, the underwear bomber, his standby attorney, Anthony Chambers, who has indicated to me and even made a statement to the Detroit Free Press in December 2010 that the own experts the government has hired have indicated to him that the bomb could not have exploded, that it was impossibly defective. So how do you justify that with the supposed story of what happened, that he flew to Yemen, had this bomb sewn in his underwear, traveled back to Nigeria, to Amsterdam, to Detroit, or whatever.
We've seen this footage they've released where he's got the hood on, and it looks like bad 70s or 1980 Empire Strikes Back with Obi-Wan Kenobi when he's the ghost. I mean, it's flickering, put into the black. I mean, we're video people, and it's pretty easy to see that that's fake. Like the Bin Laden videos, all of it, it's turned out those are fake. This is really getting insane. And let's just say it's real, though. Land of the free, home of the brave. We've got to give up all our rights and have our children groped, our wives groped, checkpoints, TSA at proms, because a guy had a bomb go off. And I'm going from memory since I first interviewed you a year and a half ago, but did you even hear anything go off?
Yeah, it was quiet, though. It was more like pop, 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 pretty quiet. And, it was mostly a lot of screaming. And what really got my attention was the fire. Obviously, I was watching the fire because this wasn't just a bomb that malfunctioned. It could start a fire, and that's what had me worried. The fire was spreading really quick.
And then we haven't even gotten into the part where you land and the guy that's videotaping this is taken off and they say there's bombs, get out of here, and then later forget it, that never happened. I mean, clearly there is a textbook cover-up going on here, and it's funny the State Department's involved because studying and reading books by former Navy SEALs like Richard Marcinko and others, from the rogue team that he was part of, and talking to a lot of people in Black Ops, and the British have admitted they do this, they will stage dud bombs or flashbang attacks on their own embassies or on their own diplomatic cars from time to time. Most governments do this, if they want to get the staff more serious about security, if they want to get more funding. And this dud bomb event, run by the same guy, Alaki, where the person's trying to light his shoe on fire when everybody knows plastic explosive is not lit, it's an electrical charge. I mean, it's the same thing. And even mainstream media in the last year has had to cover all the fake patsies that they recruit out of prison who are terrorists, mentally ill, addled, normally mildly retarded, who the FBI doesn't infiltrate. They lead them and offer them hundreds of thousands of dollars if they'll bomb the Christmas tree in Portland or if they'll attack this or that. So clearly they're trying to manufacture these events. Kurt Haskell, where do you see this country going? What's your overall view on the fact that there's big sis at the football games and big telescreens going up saying watch your neighbor and see something, say something with eyeballs on it, on coffee cups? I mean, it's like we've woken up in 1984.
Yeah, I could go on and on for hours about this, Alex. I have so much to say about it. But, I'll try and keep it short. This country is going downhill. It's time to leave this country. It's only going to get worse. Voting's not going to make it better. Those of you that are holding out for Ron Paul to win the presidency, forget it. It's not going to make a difference even if he wins. This country is not going to change. It's gone too far unless, I'm not calling for this, but I'm saying the only thing that would stop it would be an overthrow of the government, in my opinion. This country is too far gone, keeps getting worse and worse all the time. There's no stopping it. The media is complicit. Everyone in the government is complicit. It's a complete disaster. And speaking of the NFL, interestingly enough, I didn't know TSA was getting involved in the NFL, and I actually had tickets and went to the game Sunday, Kansas City Chiefs versus Detroit Lions, and I got there 17 minutes before kickoff, and I didn't get in before kickoff because of all the pat-downs that were going on. Oh. I was kind of irritated. I missed about the first 5 minutes of the game. But a point I wanted to make a minute ago, which I haven't talked to you about yet because I haven't been on your show since earlier this year, but there was a hearing I went to in the underwear bomber case on July 7th, and some pretty interesting things happened. Do we have a minute where I can get into this?
Absolutely. I've been bringing up a lot of history and past stuff. You've got the last 5 minutes. You've got the floor. You're going to the hearings, and that's why you're here. Yeah. So dispensing with the background, you've been going to the hearings. You're talking to the underwear bombers, lawyers. So you're giving us breaking inside info that the national media is not covering. So, Kurt, you've got the floor. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, I figured that out. I started going to hearings, and then I would read the press reports about the hearings, and they would be totally different than what I would see at the actual hearing. And one of them was on July 7th. It was a hearing. This hearing was scheduled because the standby attorney, Umar's standby attorney, asked to delay the trial. And he asked to delay the trial because he said he was just before, and this would have been in June, so we're talking 18, 19 months after the bombing. He was just given a great deal, what he called the most significant evidence of the case. And he asked for some additional time to go through and hire experts and to delay the trial, which is set for a few days from now, starting October 4th. But he then went on to describe the evidence he was just given. And I think it's pretty interesting. If you think about what my theory on the case is, that an undercover agent from the U.S. government gave Umar an intentionally defective bomb and escorted him through security. That's what really happened here. So keep that in mind with what the evidence was that he was given at the last minute. A copy of Umar's passport. He was given a disc containing a chemical analysis of the bomb. Airport security video and audio. 4 discs of DNA analysis. I'm not really sure of what, but that's what he said. And then the last one was a witness statement from I'll go over this slow because it's kind of confusing, a Dutch non-law enforcement citizen, government profiler, who talked to Umar during the time in question. So what I make out of this, Dutch, okay, non-law enforcement, okay, government profiler, kind of weird, who could this be?
Psychologist.
during the time in question. I think this is the sharp-dressed man, and I think the sharp-dressed man was a person at the airport in Amsterdam. They have an additional level of security, that being a security interview of some sort after you go through, metal detectors.
That's Israeli style, isn't it?
Yeah,